I was kicked out by my father on my birthday, but I didn't take it lying down. Ashley Wilson never imagined that the most special day of the year would turn into the most painful one of her life. At 25, she expected to find colorful balloons and the chocolate cake her mother always made. But when she opened the door to her home in New York, she was met with her suitcases packed and waiting in the entryway. "Take your things and get out of my house," said Robert Wilson, her father, pointing firmly toward the street. The 48-year-old man, who had always been affectionate, now looked at her as if she were a stranger. Ashley felt her heart race. She was still wearing the pink birthday hat she'd gotten at work, a cruel contrast to the situation. "Dad, what's going on? Today's my birthday." She tried to smile, thinking maybe this was part of some elaborate joke. "Don't play games with me, Ashley. I found out something about you that I can't forgive." His voice trembled with suppressed anger. "But what did I do? At least explain it to me." Robert looked away, his hands clenched into fists. "I don't want to talk about it. I just want you to leave and never come back." Through the living room window, Ashley saw her mother, Susan, hiding behind the floral curtain. She was crying silently, her face red from holding back tears. When their eyes met, Susan quickly turned away. "Mom!" Ashley shouted toward the window. "Mom, help me!" Susan disappeared from view, leaving only the fabric swaying slightly. "Your mother won't help you this time." Robert grabbed the suitcases and set them on the sidewalk. 25 years was too long. Ashley's legs shook. The street where she'd grown up with its simple, well-kept houses in Park Slope suddenly felt like a foreign place. "Dad, please, if I did something wrong, we can talk about it. It doesn't have to be like this." "There's nothing to talk about." He began closing the door. "And don't call me Dad." The door slammed shut with a bang that echoed down the entire street. Ashley stood frozen on the sidewalk, still wearing her birthday hat, surrounded by her suitcases, and completely clueless about what had just happened. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Neighbors began peeking out their windows, curious about the commotion. Mrs. Jenkins, the 70-year-old woman who had lived next door for decades, approached slowly. "What happened, dear?" she asked, adjusting her glasses. "I don't know, Mrs. Jenkins. My father kicked me out, but he wouldn't tell me why." "How strange. You two were always so close. Do you want me to talk to him?" Ashley shook her head, still trying to process everything. "I don't think it'll help. He was really angry." First, she tried calling her best friend, Jessica, who lived in Williamsburg. When she answered, Ashley could barely get the words out. "Jess, I need your help. My dad kicked me out, and I have nowhere to go." "What do you mean, Ash? What happened?" "I don't know. I came home expecting my birthday celebration and found my suitcases packed. He said he found out something about me but won't tell me what." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Jessica sighed heavily. "Ash, your dad called me an hour ago." "He called? Why?" "He said you'd try to come here and told me not to let you in. He said you did something really bad and that the whole family has to stay away from you." Ashley felt the world spin. Her own best friend, whom she'd known since school, couldn't help her. "Jess, you've known me for 15 years. You know I'd never do anything terrible." "I know, Ash, but..." He sounded dead serious. He was talking about family honor and... "I don't know, it got really weird. My mom's here and said it's best if I stay out of it." The call ended, leaving Ashley even more desperate. She tried calling other friends and cousins, but discovered that Robert had done the same thing, called everyone, asking them not to take her in. The sun was beginning to set when Ashley finally accepted she needed to find another place to sleep. Pulling her 2 heavy suitcases, she walked to the nearest subway station. Her small amount of money would cover one night in a simple place. On the way, she remembered the shelter downtown near Union Square. She had passed by there a few times and seen people coming and going. She never imagined she'd one day need a place like that. The shelter's receptionist, a young woman with curly hair, was kind but direct. "We only have space for people in socially vulnerable situations. Are you sure you don't have any family or friends who can help you?" Ashley quickly explained her situation. trying not to cry in front of strangers. "Look, I can recommend a boarding house nearby. It's very simple, but the owner is a good person. If you can pay—" "I have a little money saved," Ashley lied, knowing her funds would barely last a week. The boarding house was on a narrow street behind St. Patrick's Cathedral. The three-story building was old but well kept. At the entrance, a small sign read, "St. James Boarding House, rooms by the day, week, or month." The owner was a woman in her 60s with graying hair tied in a bun and kind eyes. She came downstairs when Ashley rang the bell. "Good evening. I need a room," Ashley said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "I'm Mrs. Thompson. How long do you plan to stay?" "I'm not sure yet. Maybe a few days." Mrs. Thompson studied her for a moment, noticing the suitcases, the crumpled birthday hat Ashley had forgotten to take off, and her red, tear-swollen eyes. "Trouble at home?" Ashley nodded, not trusting her voice. "Happened to me too, dear. Come in, let's talk properly." Mrs. Thompson's apartment was on the ground floor. The living room was small but cozy, with a floral sofa and lots of plants. Family photos and an image of St. Francis of Assisi hung on the wall. "Sit here," Mrs. Thompson said, pointing to the sofa. "I'll make you some tea." While the older woman busied herself in the kitchen, Ashley finally took off the birthday hat and looked at it sadly. What a terrible birthday she was having. "How old are you today?" Mrs. Thompson asked, returning with 2 cups of chamomile tea. 25. "And your parents didn't throw a party?" Ashley told her everything again, this time more calmly. Mrs. Thompson listened carefully, nodding at times. "You know, dear, sometimes families keep secrets that hurt terribly when they come out. I've seen many people go through similar situations. But I can't imagine what I could have done that was so bad. I work at a clothing store, pay all my bills, never got into trouble. Maybe it's not something you did. Sometimes we learn things about ourselves that others have hidden for a long time." Mrs. Thompson's words made Ashley think. Could there really be something about her own life she didn't know? "The room I have available is small but clean. I can't charge too little because I need to keep the boarding house running, but if you're willing to help with some chores around here, I can give you a discount." "What kind of chores?" "Helping clean the rooms, serving breakfast to the other guests, things like that. My arthritis makes it hard to do everything alone." Ashley agreed immediately. At least she'd have a roof over her head while she tried to figure out what had happened. The room was truly small. A single bed, a narrow wardrobe, and a little nightstand. The window faced a small inner courtyard where Mrs. Thompson had a clothesline and a few potted plants. That first night, Ashley barely slept. She lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to recall any strange moments from her childhood, any interrupted conversations, any secrets that might explain her father's violent reaction. The next morning, she woke up early and helped Mrs. Thompson prepare breakfast for the other boarders at the St. James boarding house. There was an elderly retired man who had lived there for years, a young college student, and a guy looking for work. "Mrs. Thompson told me you've had trouble at home," said the retired man, Mr. Wilson. "If you need anything, you can count on me." The kindness of these strangers contrasted with the coldness she had received from her own family. Ashley thanked him and went to work at the shop, trying to maintain some normalcy. During lunch, she tried calling her mother several times, but no one answered. She sent text messages, which also went unanswered. It was as if she had simply ceased to exist for her family. On the 3rd day at the boarding house, Ashley decided to try a different approach. Instead of calling, she wrote a letter to her mother and went to deliver it in person at the family home. Robert wasn't there. She knew he worked at an accounting firm until 6 in the evening. She rang the doorbell and waited. Susan appeared at the window, saw who it was, and quickly disappeared. Ashley rang the bell several times, but no one came to answer. Finally, she slid the letter under the door and left. In the letter, she simply asked for an explanation. She said she was living at a boarding house, working to support herself, but needed to understand what she had done wrong to be treated this way. A week later, the letter was returned to the boarding house. The envelope was sealed, unopened. "They didn't even read it," Ashley said to Mrs. Thompson, holding the returned letter. Sometimes people are so afraid of the truth that they'd rather pretend it doesn't exist, the older woman replied as she served dinner. But what truth? I don't understand any of this. Mrs. Thompson sat beside her at the small kitchen table. Sweetheart, can I ask you a personal question? Ashley nodded. Do you look like your parents? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? Physically, I mean. Do you share similar features? Ashley thought for a moment. Robert had dark hair and brown eyes, was tall and thin. Susan was blonde with light eyes, short and curvier. Ashley had light brown hair, green eyes, and was of average height. Actually, people always said I took after my grandparents, she said slowly. And do you know your grandparents well? My paternal grandparents passed away when I was little. My maternal ones... Ashley stopped speaking. What about your maternal ones? My mother's family was always kind of distant. My grandmother died when I was about 10, and my grandfather, well, I never really knew him. My mother said they had a falling out and drifted apart. Mrs. Thompson nodded thoughtfully. Do you have any aunts or cousins? My mother has a sister, but they haven't spoken in years. My mother always said her sister was trouble, that she caused problems in the family. Do you know her name? Where she lives? Aunt Olivia. I think she still lives here in New York, but she's never visited our home. That night, Ashley kept thinking about the conversation. Why was Mrs. Thompson asking these questions about her family? Could there possibly be a connection between her being kicked out and these distant relatives? The next day, she took time off work and decided to try finding information about Aunt Olivia. She started at the health clinic in the neighborhood where she grew up, since she knew her mother and her sister had gone to the same place when they were young. The longest-serving employee at the station, Mrs. Brown, vaguely remembered the family. Olivia Parker. Yes, I remember her. She was very different from her mother, younger, more rebellious. She left home very early. It must have been 15 years since I last saw her around here. Do you know where she might be living now? Well, I think I heard she works at a flower shop near Chelsea Market, but I'm not sure. Ashley spent the afternoon searching for flower shops around Chelsea Market. At the third one she visited, a small store called Olivia's Flowers. She finally had some luck. The woman behind the counter was about 45, with light brown hair like Ashley's and the same face shape as Susan. She was clearly her aunt. Excuse me, are you Olivia Parker? Ashley asked, her heart pounding. The woman looked up from the flowers she was arranging and studied the young woman's face. I am. And you are? Ashley. Ashley Wilson. Susan's daughter. Olivia's expression changed completely. First surprise, then sadness, then something that looked like fear. Ashley, my God, how you've grown. The last time I saw you, you were about 5 years old. Aunt Olivia, I need to talk to you. Something very strange has happened in my family. Olivia glanced around the empty shop and sighed. Lock the door and flip the sign to closed. I guess it's time for this conversation. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. Olivia poured strong coffee at a small table in the back of the flower shop. Her hands trembled slightly as she stirred in sugar. Tell me what happened, she said, avoiding looking directly at Ashley. Ashley recounted everything. The eviction, the packed bags, her father's refusal to explain anything, the family's sudden isolation. Olivia listened in silence, her face growing paler by the minute. He found out, she murmured, more to herself than to Ashley. Found out what, Aunt Olivia? Olivia stood and walked to the window, watching the street outside. Ashley, your family has kept a secret for many years. A secret I thought would never come to light. What secret? Before I tell you anything, I need you to promise me one thing. What? That you won't do anything rash when you learn the truth. That you'll think carefully before acting. Ashley promised, though her curiosity was nearly unbearable. Olivia returned to the table and looked her directly in the eyes for the first time. Your mother and I fought many years ago because of you. Because of me. Actually, because of a decision we made when you were a baby. A decision that changed all our lives. I don't understand. Olivia took a deep breath. Ashley, do you know Susan tried for years to have children before you were born? Yes, she told me she went through a lot of treatments. What she didn't tell you is that the doctors said she could never get pregnant. It was complete infertility. Ashley felt a chill in her stomach. But then what about me? You came into our family in a different way. Different how? Olivia stood again, clearly disturbed. Ashley, there's a safe deposit box at the bank where our mother kept some important documents. When she passed, she left instructions that you could only access them when you turned 25. What documents? Papers that explain your origin. My origin? Aunt Olivia, you're scaring me. In your grandmother's will, it states that you're entitled to a small inheritance and access to those documents. Susan and Robert always knew, but they hoped you'd never find out. Ashley felt as if the ground were collapsing beneath her. Are you saying that I'm not their daughter? Olivia didn't respond right away. You are a child of love, Ashley. That much I can assure you. But the situation is more complicated than it seems. Aunt, please, just tell me the truth. I can't stand being in the dark anymore. Olivia walked back to the table and took Ashley's hands in hers. Robert must have found some document in the attic of the house. Susan always kept a few things there, thinking you'd never look. What kind of document? Your original birth certificate. Original? What do you mean? The certificate you know isn't the first one made when you were born. Ashley pulled her hands away sharply. Aunt Olivia, you need to stop speaking in riddles and tell me the whole truth. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment, as if gathering courage. All right, but brace yourself because this will be hard to hear. Ashley nodded, though her heart was racing. 25 years ago, I was in a very difficult situation. I was 20, involved with a boy my whole family disapproved of. When I found out I was pregnant, my parents were furious. Pregnant? With you, Ashley. The world stopped for Ashley. Her aunt's words echoed in her mind as if coming from far away. You're my mother. Biologically, yes. But Susan is the one who raised you, who loved you, who stayed up all night when you were sick. She's your real mother. Ashley stood up so fast she nearly knocked over the chair. This can't be. This can't be happening. Ashley, sit down, please. Let me explain how it all happened. No, I don't want to hear any more. Ashley began pacing back and forth in the small shop. You're telling me my whole life has been a lie. It wasn't a lie. It was love. Susan wanted a child so badly that when I showed up pregnant and unable to raise one, she offered to help. And my father, the real one, I mean. Olivia lowered her head. He didn't want to take responsibility. He disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy. Ashley sat back down, feeling dizzy. Why did you do this to me? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Because we didn't want you to suffer. Because Susan loved you from the very first day, as if you were her own flesh and blood. And you? How could you just give me away like that? The words came out harsher than Ashley intended, but she was too hurt to care. Olivia began to cry. Do you think it was easy? Do you think I didn't think about you every single day for these 25 years? If you thought about me so much, why didn't you ever try to find me? Because we promised it would be better this way, that you'd have a better life with parents who could give you stability, education, love. And now that Robert found out, he kicked me out of the house like I was a stranger. He must feel betrayed. Discovering this secret was kept from him for so long. But I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't even know any of this. I know, my child, I know. The way Olivia said my child made Ashley cry for the first time since she'd been thrown out of the house. What do I do now? I have no family left. I have nothing. You have me, and you have a right to the documents your grandmother left. Maybe there you'll find more answers. Ashley wiped her face and tried to compose herself. What bank are the documents in? National Bank, Union Square branch. Your grandmother left instructions with a lawyer. I can give you his name. Olivia went to an old desk at the back of the shop and searched through some drawers. She pulled out a yellowed card. Dr. William Thompson. He must be in his 70s now, but he still works. He was the one who handled all the paperwork when you were born. Ashley took the card with trembling hands. Aunt Olivia, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it? Olivia looked at her with infinite sadness. Giving you to Susan? No. Because I know she gave you a better life than I could have at the time, but I regret not fighting to be part of your life in some way. Why did you fight? You and Susan. Because as you grew up, I wanted more contact. I wanted to visit you, to watch you grow, but Susan thought it would only confuse you. She said it was better for me to stay away completely. And you accepted that. What choice did I have? Legally, you were her daughter. I had no rights. Ashley Wilson tucked the lawyer's card into her purse. I'll look up this Dr. Thompson. I need to see those documents. Ashley, before you go, can I give you a hug? Ashley hesitated for a moment, still processing everything she'd just learned. Then she nodded. The hug was long and filled with emotion. Olivia Parker cried softly, 25 years of longing pouring out at once. Thank you for telling me the truth, Ashley said when they pulled apart. Thank you for looking for me. Even without knowing, you gave me the chance to explain. Ashley left the flower shop with more questions than answers, but finally had a direction to follow. Dr. William Thompson would be the next step in her search for the full truth. The lawyer's office was in an old building downtown in New York. Ashley took the elevator to the 5th floor, nervous about what she might discover. The secretary was a polite woman in her 50s. The doctor is expecting you. He said someone called ahead about your visit. Olivia had phoned earlier to smooth the way. Dr. William Thompson was an elegant man with completely white hair and gold-rimmed glasses. His office was filled with law books and had a solemn air. Miss Wilson, please have a seat. I've been waiting a long time for this conversation. Doctor, I need to understand what happened when I was born. My Aunt Olivia told me you handled the paperwork. First, I need to verify your identity and confirm you've truly turned 25. Ashley showed her documents. The lawyer checked everything carefully. Perfect. Now I can carry out the instructions your maternal grandmother left me. He opened a thick file and pulled out some papers. Your grandmother, Mrs. Grace Parker, was a very wise woman. She foresaw that one day you'd need to know the truth about your origins. What truth, Doctor? The circumstances of your adoption were irregular. Irregular how? It wasn't done through traditional legal channels. It was an arrangement between families without going through the proper authorities. Ashley felt a chill down her spine. Does that mean my adoption was illegal? Not exactly illegal, but it didn't follow all the necessary procedures. At the time, these kinds of private arrangements were more common. The lawyer showed her a birth certificate, different from the one she knew. This is your original certificate. As you can see, your biological parents are Olivia Parker and Michael James Anderson. Ashley read the document several times, trying to process the information. Michael James Anderson. That's my biological father. He passed away a few years ago. How? A car accident. Your grandmother kept track of things and left this information for you. Did he ever know I existed? Dr. Thompson hesitated. Yes, he knew, but he chose not to be part of your life. Why? From what I understand, he was very young, from a conservative family that didn't approve of his relationship with Olivia. When they found out about the pregnancy, his family pressured him to walk away. Ashley felt orphaned all over again. First, she'd lost the parents who raised her. Now she learned her biological father had never wanted her and was already gone. Doctor, besides these certificates, what else did my grandmother leave for me? There's a small sum of money and some personal items, but the most important things are the letters. Letters? Your grandmother wrote many letters to you over the years, letters she could never deliver, but kept in the hope that one day you would read them. The lawyer handed her a small but heavy wooden box. Take it home and read it at your own pace. It's 25 years of love from a grandmother who could never show it openly. Ashley took the box with reverence. Doctor, I have a legal question. Now that I know the truth, what's my legal standing? You're of age and have the right to know your story. There's nothing criminal in what was done. It was a family decision, made with love and good intentions. What about Robert and Susan? Could they face legal trouble? No. The adoption may not have followed all the bureaucratic steps, but it was done in good faith. Besides, the statute of limitations has passed for any legal challenges. Ashley felt relieved. She didn't want to cause problems for the people who raised her, even after everything that had happened. Is there anything else I should know? Your grandmother left instructions that if you wanted to learn more about your biological father, there's someone who can tell you stories about him. Who? His mother, your paternal grandmother, Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson. She lives in a retirement home here in New York. Your grandmother Grace kept in touch with her over the years. Does she know about me? She does, and she's always wanted to meet you, but she respected the agreement between the families. Ashley left the lawyer's office with the box of letters and a new mission: to visit the grandmother she'd never known. She returned to the boarding house and locked herself in her room. Mrs. Thompson, sensing her distress, brought up a snack and tea. Did you find out something important? Ashley quickly shared what she had learned. Mrs. Thompson listened, nodding. I always suspected something like this. You have very different traits from your parents. Mrs. Thompson, do you think Robert will ever forgive me? My dear, when people find out they've been deceived for so long, even with good intentions, they get very hurt. It'll take time for him to process all this. Ashley opened the box of letters. There were dozens organized by date. The first was from when she turned one. My dearest granddaughter, Ashley. Today you turned one, and I couldn't be there to see you blow out your candle. Susan sent me a photo of you holding a little cake. You're the most beautiful child I've ever seen. I know one day you'll understand why our family made the choices we did. I know you'll see it was all done out of love. Your loving grandmother, Grace. Ashley cried as she read the first letter. There was love there, a love she never knew existed. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. She spent the night reading the letters. In each one, her grandmother wrote about her milestones, apologized for not being present, expressed her love and hoped they'd meet one day. In the letter for her 10th birthday, her grandmother wrote, Dear Ashley, today you turned 10. Olivia tells me you're growing into a smart and kind girl. I'm proud of you, even from afar. Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice. Would you have been happier knowing the truth? But then I remember Susan loves you as if you were her own, and Robert treats you like a princess. Maybe the love you receive matters more than biological truth. Your grandmother, Grace. There were letters for every birthday, her high school graduation, her first job. Her grandmother always knew the important moments in her life, even from a distance. The last letter was different. It was more recent, written just months before her grandmother passed. My dearest Ashley, if you're reading this letter, it means you've finally discovered the truth. I hope you're not too upset with us. I want you to know that every decision we made was with your well-being in mind. Olivia was very young and couldn't raise you. Susan was desperate to be a mother. It seemed like the perfect solution. But people aren't problems to be solved. They're human beings who deserve the truth. I regret agreeing to hide your origins for so long. In the box, along with these letters, are some photos of you that I managed to collect over the years. I've also left the address of your other grandmother, Mrs. Anderson. She always wanted to meet you. Be strong, my dear granddaughter, be brave, and remember, you were born from so much love, even if that love came in complicated ways. With all my affection, Grandma Grace. Ashley fell asleep, hugging the box of letters, feeling connected to the grandmother she'd never met in person, but who had always loved her from afar. The next day, she decided to visit Mrs. Anderson at the nursing home. The place was in Astoria, a quiet neighborhood in uptown New York. The Hope Haven nursing home was well kept, with beautiful gardens and a warm atmosphere. Ashley explained at the reception that she wanted to visit Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson. Mrs. Anderson doesn't get many visitors, the receptionist said. She'll be so happy. Mrs. Anderson was in the common room, crocheting. She was a woman in her 80s, with white hair and bright blue eyes. When the nurse said she had a visitor, she looked up curiously. Mrs. Anderson, this is Ashley. The elderly woman looked at Ashley and brought a hand to her chest. Oh my goodness, Ashley? My Michael's daughter. You're my paternal grandmother. Mrs. Anderson struggled to her feet and walked toward Ashley. Her hands trembled as she touched the young woman's face. You have his eyes, the same green eyes as my son. They sat at a more private table. Mrs. Anderson held Ashley's hands as if afraid she might disappear. I always knew you'd come looking for me one day. Grace assured me you'd learn the truth when you turned 25. You knew my maternal grandmother? Yes, and we were friends. Two women who loved the same child, but couldn't be part of her life. Mrs. Anderson, can you tell me about my father? What was he like? The older woman's eyes sparkled at the memory. Michael was a special boy, smart, sensitive, but very immature. When he found out Olivia was pregnant, he was terrified. Why didn't he want to meet me? Oh, my dear, it wasn't like that. He did want to, but my husband, his father, was very strict. He said if Michael took responsibility for the child, he'd be kicked out of the house and disinherited. So he chose his family. He was so young, Ashley. Only 22. He didn't know what to do. His parents convinced him it would be better for everyone if he stayed away. Ashley felt a mix of sadness and anger. But later, when he grew up, did he ever try to find me? Mrs. Anderson sighed deeply. He did try. When you were about 10, he was more mature, married, had a stable life. He looked for Olivia to ask about you. What happened? Olivia said it was best not to stir things up, that you were happy and well, and learning the truth would only cause confusion. And he accepted that? Reluctantly. But yes. He said he didn't want to cause problems for you. Ashley felt she was hearing a different side of the story. Mrs. Anderson, what was he like as a person? He was kind, loved to read, played guitar. He worked as a history teacher. He was a good man, Ashley. Just made wrong choices when he was young. Did he ever have other children? He had a son with his wife, your half-brother. His name is Ethan. He must be about 15 now. Ashley was surprised by this information. I have a brother, a half-brother, and he knows about you. How? Because Michael told him before he passed, said he had a daughter he couldn't raise but always loved. Where does this Ethan live? With his mother, right here in New York. If you want, I can give you their contact. Ashley felt her family expanding unexpectedly. From an only child, she now had two mothers, a deceased father, and a half-brother. Mrs. Anderson, what do you think I should do about Robert and Susan? My dear, they raised you with love. I know Robert is hurt now, but he loves you. He's just confused and feels betrayed. But how can I go back home after all this? Maybe it's not about going back, but building a new relationship based on truth. Mrs. Anderson stood up and went to her room, returning with a small box. This is for you. Some photos of your father and a letter he wrote before he passed. Ashley took the box with emotion. He wrote me a letter. He wrote it when he found out he was sick, said if you ever showed up, I should give it to you. On her way back to the boarding house, Ashley stopped at a park and read her father's letter. My dear daughter Ashley, if you're reading this, it means we've finally found each other, even if I'm no longer here. First, I want to ask for your forgiveness, for not being brave enough to fight for you when you were born, for letting fear be stronger than love. Not a day went by in all these years without me thinking of you. I always wondered how you were, if you looked like me, if you were happy. Your mother Elizabeth would share news about you through Grace. I knew when you learned to walk, when you started talking, when you began school. I followed your life from afar, rooting for you. I know you must be confused and maybe angry. That's natural. But I want you to know you were made with love. Olivia and I were young and in love. You are the fruit of that love, even if circumstances didn't let us raise you. Susan and Robert are good people. They gave you everything I didn't have the courage to give. Don't hold grudges against them. I have a son, Ethan, your half-brother. I told him about you. He was thrilled to know he has a sister and hopes to meet you one day. You're strong, Ashley. I know because you're my and Olivia's daughter. I'm sure you'll overcome all this and build a beautiful life. I love you, my daughter. Always have. Your father, Michael James. Ashley cried for a long time on the park bench. It was the first time she truly felt orphaned, Yet she also discovered she had been loved by more people than she ever imagined. When she returned to the boarding house, she got a surprise. Mrs. Thompson was in the kitchen talking to an unfamiliar woman. "Ashley, this is Sarah, Ethan's mother." Ashley looked at the woman, a kind-faced lady in her 40s, with a calm demeanor. "Mrs. Anderson called and told me you visited her. I thought you might want to meet your brother. Where is he?" "Still at school, but he can come here later if you'd like." Ashley agreed. 2 hours later, a tall, dark-haired boy, shy for his age, arrived at the boarding house with his mother. "Hi," he said, clearly nervous. "Are you my sister?" "Half-sister," Ashley corrected, smiling. "But you can just call me sister." Ethan had the same green eyes as their father and a timid smile that reminded Ashley of the photos she'd seen. "Dad talked about you a lot," he said. "Always said he had a special daughter who lived far away." "He talked about me?" "Yeah, said you were smart and beautiful and that one day we'd meet." They talked for hours. Ethan shared stories about their father, how caring and present he was. Sarah added stories that showed a mature and responsible Michael, very different from the frightened young man who had run from fatherhood. "Ethan, don't you resent Dad for abandoning me?" asked Ashley. "At first I did a little, but he explained he was too young and didn't know what to do, said it was the biggest mistake of his life." "And you, Sarah? Weren't you upset knowing your husband had a daughter?" "I was surprised at first, of course, but Michael was always honest with me about you. He said, if you ever showed up, I should welcome you as family." Ashley felt embraced in a way she hadn't experienced in weeks. "You really want me to be part of your family?" "Of course," Ethan said immediately. "I've always wanted a sister." "You'll always be welcome in our home," Sarah added. For the first time since being cast out, Ashley felt she had a family again. It was different, complicated, full of painful stories, but it was real. In the following days, Ashley divided her time between work, the new family she was getting to know, and trying to figure out how to handle Robert and Susan. Olivia visited her at the boarding house and met Ethan and Sarah. It was an emotional meeting, as it was the first time she'd seen anyone from Ashley's father's family. "Thank you for taking such good care of her," Olivia told Sarah. "Thank you for bringing such a special person into the world," Sarah replied. Mrs. Thompson watched everything with satisfaction. "It's beautiful to see how love multiplies," she told Ashley. "You started thinking you'd lost one family, and now you've discovered you have several." "But it still hurts not having Robert and Susan in my life," Ashley confessed. "Give it time. Wounds need to heal." One afternoon, Ashley decided to try a new approach. Instead of confronting her parents directly, she wrote a long letter explaining everything she'd discovered and left it in the mailbox of her old home. This time, the letter wasn't returned. 3 days later, she got a call on her phone. It was Susan. "Ashley?" Her voice was hoarse from crying. "Mom? Can we talk? Just the two of us?" They met at a diner near the boarding house. Susan looked visibly worn, with deep circles under her eyes and wrinkled clothes. "I read your letter," Susan said, barely able to look at Ashley. "And?" "I'm sorry. So sorry for everything." "For what exactly?" "For hiding the truth for so long. For letting Robert kick you out. For not having the courage to face the situation when it happened." Ashley wanted to hug Susan, but there was still too much hurt between them. "Mum, why did you never tell me?" "Because we were afraid." "Afraid you wouldn't understand, afraid you'd want to find Olivia, afraid of losing you. But wasn't it my right to know?" "It was, always. But as the years passed, it got harder to say. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that she's adopted? How do you tell a teenager? How do you tell an adult?" "You could have tried." "I know, we were cowards." Susan began to cry softly. "Ashley, can you forgive me?" "I can. But I need time to trust you again. And Robert, how is he?" "Devastated. He loves you so much, Ashley. When he found out the truth, he lost it. Not at you, at us, for living a lie for so long." "He said that?" "Yes. He spent the last few days wondering how you were, if you had a place to stay, if you were okay." "Then why didn't he try to find me?" "Because he's ashamed." Ashamed of kicking you out. Ashamed of discovering the truth so brutally. Ashley thought of Robert, the man who taught her to ride a bike, who took her to school every day, who spent hours helping with homework. Does he still want to be my father? He's always been your father, Ashley, and he always will be. Family isn't just about blood. Can I come home? Of course, whenever you want. Not today. I need to prepare myself emotionally, but maybe this weekend. Robert will be so happy. What about Olivia? Will you accept her into the family? Susan hesitated. It'll be hard at first. There's a lot of history between us. But if it's important to you, we'll try. When they said goodbye, Susan hugged Ashley for the first time since the fallout. I love you, my daughter. I always have and always will. I love you too, Mom. On Saturday, Ashley returned to the house where she'd grown up. Robert was in the yard mowing the lawn, something he always did when he was nervous. When he saw her coming, he dropped the mower and stood frozen, unsure what to do. Hi, Dad, said Ashley. Hi, sweetheart. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Robert opened his arms and she ran into them. Forgive me, he said, crying. Forgive me for being so stupid. I forgive you. But do you forgive me for not telling the truth sooner? There's nothing to forgive, Ashley. You did nothing wrong. We were the ones who messed up. They went inside together. The kitchen table was set for 3, and there was a chocolate cake, the same one Susan always made for Ashley's birthdays. It's a make-up cake, Susan said, trying to smile, for the birthday you missed. Over lunch, Ashley told them about all the people she'd met. Olivia, Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson, Ethan, Sarah. Robert and Susan listened without interrupting. So now you have a big family, Robert remarked. I do, but you'll always be my main parents. You're the ones who raised me, loved me, taught me everything. And Olivia, Susan asked, visibly uncomfortable. Olivia is complicated. She's my birth mother, but you're my heart's mother. I don't want to choose between you. Then how do we make this work? Slowly, with patience, by understanding that love doesn't shrink when it's shared. It grows. In the months that followed, the family went through a long process of reconciliation and rebuilding. Ashley stayed at the boarding house for a while, until she felt ready to come home for good. Olivia was gradually included in the family. At first their meetings were tense and formal, but over time Robert and Susan began to understand that Olivia had also suffered from the separation and had always loved Ashley. Ethan became the little brother Ashley never knew she wanted. They met regularly, and he introduced her to his friends as his big sister. Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson started receiving regular visits from Ashley, who finally had a grandmother to spoil and be spoiled by. Sarah became a dear friend, always eager to share stories about Michael and include Ashley in family traditions. Mrs. Thompson gained an honorary daughter and started getting frequent visits from Ashley's whole extended family. 6 months after the fallout, Ashley threw a birthday party, not to make up for what she'd lost, but to celebrate all she'd gained. The party was at Robert and Susan's house, but everyone was there. Olivia brought flowers from her shop. Mrs. Elizabeth Anderson came in a wheelchair, but with a radiant smile. Ethan and Sarah brought photos of Michael to share stories. Mrs. Thompson insisted on helping with the preparations. I never thought being kicked out could lead to so much love, Ashley said during the toast. Sometimes life has to fall apart so it can come back together better, Robert replied. The important thing is, there are no more secrets between us, Susan added. And we've learned that family isn't just who gave us life, but who chooses to stand by us, Olivia said. That night, Ashley slept in her usual bed, in the house where she had grown up, but with a completely new perspective on what it meant to belong to a family. She had discovered that true love isn't built on well-intentioned lies, but on the courage to face the truth together. She had learned that families can be complex, imperfect, and painful, but they can also be resilient, forgiving, and infinitely loving. The young woman who had been kicked out of the house on her birthday had transformed into the woman who managed to bring several families together as one, through the power of forgiveness and understanding. 2 years later, Ashley graduated with a degree in law, specializing in family law. Her thesis was on informal adoption and the importance of transparency in family relationships. At the graduation ceremony, Her entire extended family was there. Robert cried with pride. Susan blew kisses to all the guests. Olivia brought an enormous bouquet of flowers. Mrs. Anderson told everyone who would listen that this was her smartest granddaughter. Ethan recorded everything on his phone. Sarah made sure to take pictures with everyone, and Mrs. Thompson kept repeating to anyone who would listen that she had met Ashley when she had nothing. And now, look how far she had come. "Thank you," Ashley said during the graduation speech she gave on behalf of her class. "Thank you to all the families who brought me here, the ones who raised me, the ones who gave me life, the ones who took me in, and the ones I chose along the way. I've learned that love has no limits when it's real." After graduation, Ashley opened a small law office specializing in family matters, always focusing on mediating conflicts through dialogue and understanding. Her first case was helping a young woman who had just discovered she was adopted and didn't know how to process the news. "The truth hurts at first," Ashley told her client, "but it's freeing in the end. And when you least expect it, you'll find there's so much more love in your life than you ever imagined." The end. What did you think of this story of resilience and family? Could you relate to any similar situations in your own life or the lives of people close to you? Let us know in the comments how you would handle a discovery as life-changing as Ashley's. Your opinion means a lot to us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories about family, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Together we can learn that love always finds a way to win,